Hey, I'm getting ready to read the next chapter of Judy, Moody, and Stink, the Big Bad Blackout. And it's called Annie Oakley and the Fireman. Stink stabbed a marshmallow with his fork. Let's have some more stories with s'mores, he chirped. Mom smiled at Dad over her glasses. Dad and I have a story about our wedding. It's a story how another woman came between us, Dad teased. Stink's eyes got big. You mean Mom almost wasn't Mom? And you almost weren't born, Judy said. Her name is Stacy, said Dad. Yuck, said Stink. Hurricane Stacy, Mom cried. Hurricane Cupid, said Grandma Lou. She winked. Tell us, said Stink. For the record, an outdoor wedding was your mother's idea, Dad began. The day started out warm and sunny, said Mom. Then all of a sudden, Dad said, about an hour before the wedding was supposed to begin, the temperature dropped and the wind kicked up. The whole sky went dark. Those dark clouds were like a sign, said Mom. Stink shuddered as wind howled down the chimney. A prickle went up Judy's back. Trees were bending sideways, and all the chairs on the lawn blew over, Dad told them. By that time, about 60 or 70 guests had already arrived. Then the sky opened up, said Mom. Rain like you've never seen, and I was in my dress. I ran for shelter under the big white tent where the tables and food were set up for the reception. Did Dad see you? Judy asked. That's way bad luck. I'll say, I thought the whole wedding was off, said Mom, but Dad suggested we have the wedding under the tent, too. Dad and Grandpa Jack rushed to town to get emergency supplies like flashlights and batteries in case the power went out. Bad idea, said Dad, shaking his head. The roads were flooding, said Grandma Lou. There was downed power lines, fallen trees. It was dangerous to be driving in that. So what happened? Asked Stink. Crash! Mom slapped her hands together like a thunderclap. The rain came down even harder and blew in sideways under the tent. Me and Grandma Lou and my parents and the guests started moving the food from the tent into the old barn. We had saved most of it when kerplunk came down came the whole tent. Whoa, said Judy. By that time I was drenched, said Mom, and my dress was ruined. I looked around the barn for something dry to wear. All I could think and find was a trunk with some old costumes in it. Did you dress up like a witch? Stink asked. Or Wonder Woman? Judy asked. Annie Oakley, said Mom. Dad cracked up. That's Kookaberry, Stink said. That's still not the worst part, said Mom. What was the worst part? Asked Judy. How could it get any worse? Asked Stink. No, Dad, said Mom. Judy twirled a curl of her hair. Stink toward a fingernail. 3 o'clock. No, Dad, I now reread it. 3 o'clock. 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock, said Mom. Still no Dad. Did you get scared to marry Mom and run away? Stink asked Dad. Of course not, said Dad. Did you think Dad had ditched you, Mom? Judy asked. It did cross my mind, said Mom. She twirled her wedding ring back and forth, but mostly I was scared to death that something had happened to him. The power had gone out too, of course, said Grandma Lou. No lights, no microphone, no music. No wedding, said Mom. We were all holed up in the barn, just waiting, listening to the storm rage when blammo! Off flew the barn doors. I remember seeing cocktail shrimp bobbing and floating like rubber duckies in a puddle. Dad tossed another log on the fire. Sparks danced up the chimney. Stink was practically jumping out of his skin. Dad, where were you? Dad just smiled. Let Mom tell it. Mom went on. I was sure the whole barn was going to blow down like a house of cards. I mean, everything else had gone kaplooey, yeah? Right? That's when, above the howling wind, I heard a siren. It grew closer and closer. Finally, a fire engine came screaming up the drive. My heart jumped into my throat. I was sure they were coming to tell us that something bad had happened to Dad and Grandpa Jack. The room got quiet except for the spitting fire. From a loudspeaker on the fire truck came a voice like Darth Vader. The voice said, Kate Edison, will you marry me? Mom's eyes teared up. I raced out into the pouring rain in my Annie Oakley costume. There was your father leaning off the fire engine wearing a giant yellow slicker, a little mermaid life preserver, and a funny grin. You had to mention the life preserver, didn't you? Dad said, chuckling. I burst out crying. I was never so happy to see your dad. Grandpa, and I had driven the car through some deep water in the road, and the engine conked out, Dad explained. We pushed the car to higher ground and tried forever to get it started. Luckily, some firefighters stopped to help. When I said it was my wedding day, well, the rest is history. Grandma Lou clapped her hands. Now you kids know the story of how Annie Oakley married a fireman. Stink and Judy laughed. So you got married and had us and lived happily ever after, said Stink. And we had cake, said Dad. Lots and lots of cake, said Mom. It was about the only thing that didn't get ruined that day, and the fire truck played its radio over the loudspeaker so Dad and I could have our first dance together. The Temptations, I Wish It Would Rain, Mom and Dad started singing. That's a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad story, said Judy, but the ending makes it so great. Epic, said Stink. Hey, wait, did you say Edison? That's my middle name. I thought it was Earwigs, said Judy. Hardy, hard, hard. Stink made a face at Judy. Too bad the real Thomas Edison didn't come to your wedding. He could have invented the light bulb all over again and saved the whole entire wedding. Judy snorted. From a whirlwind romance to a hurricane wedding, said Grandma Lou. Stink held out a couch pillow. Kate, will you marry me? He made smooching sounds. Judy hung a pillowcase from her head for a veil and pretended she was in a wedding march. Dun, 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 she sang. We still have a piece of that cake, wedding cake, in the freezer, Mom said. That's the iceberg at the back of the freezer, Judy asked. What are we waiting for, Stink asked. Let's eat it. We're saving for a special occasion, said Dad. But this is an emergency, said Stink. What could be more special than that? That's the end of chapter